Hey everybody, we are here at the beautiful Abington Presbyterian Church, and they have let us come inside to take a look at their new live streaming system that they got set up right before the holidays. Let's take a look. All right, I'm going to take my mask off while we're doing this video. Let's take a look at the church space. On this side, we have the video production booth. On the far side over here, we have a 20x PTZ camera, and behind us over here on this wall, we have a 30x. Now, the idea here was to get a 30x PTZ camera that could zoom in 135 feet away from the stage. And it actually does a great job, and we'll take a look at what it looks like in the computers over here. On this side over here, we have a 20x camera, and this is much closer to the stage. So it's being used to capture singers and musicians, and it gives a nice cross shot. Now you'll see that there's these beautiful stained glass windows up here, which will show you how beautiful that looks with the PTZ cameras. In fact, John, one of the volunteers here, said that the PTZ cameras are able to reveal details in the beautiful woodwork and stained glass windows that a lot of people aren't even able to see with their regular eyes, because the cameras can reveal that. So there's an audio system that's already in place. So for this installation, 2 PTZOptics cameras are connected via SDI cabling and then converted to USB with an SDI to USB capture card. From there, we also have serial cabling, and we're using the HuddleCam HD serial joystick controller. There's 2 cameras that volunteers can quickly switch between, and we can call camera presets. So let's take a look at all of that at the video production booth. So I'm here with John Dwyer, who's going to tell us a little bit about the different phases of the live streaming system that you put in place here.
Abington has been running a video ministry since the late 1980s. Using basically starting with a camcorder. With the start of COVID, we ended up having to really do some more creative work associated with that. We had done some live streaming in the past, but in reality, the system that we had was not really adequate to do. With the advent of COVID, we were making a DVD recording, converting that to an MP4, editing it, and then posting it on YouTube for our folks to read. We had a 3-phase live stream project. Part 1 of the project was to replace the existing analog cameras with something which is much more suitable that has just gone through, all the 1080p cameras. Part 2 was to upgrade our analog wireless microphones to digital, and part 3 was to do the infrastructure work to get a network cable back to this part of the room, which in a building which was built in the 1960s is an interesting trick. And actually some of this building dates back to 1898, so it's always an interesting trick. We have 2 computers. We have a live stream computer, which they're the vmix computer, and we have a second computer that we refurbished from an office computer that runs ProPresenter. On a Sunday morning, there are 2 people here. There is 1 person operating the cameras, and the second person is running ProPresenter.
In vmix, there are 2 cameras. So you have a rear camera and a side camera. Can you tell me about those 2 cameras and what you've been able to do with those?
Well, the original rear camera was right above us. When we did the modifications to install these cameras, we moved it to the other side. The rear camera is a 30x zoom camera, so it gives us the capability to zoom in very close to a lot of different things. The side camera we use as either an alternate shot, or actually the side camera will zoom down to the baptismal font. If we have a wedding with a family sitting in the front row, we could zoom down to that family. The side camera also gives us the capability to shoot back to the back. So if the choir is processing, for example, we can shoot back to the back to see the choir. The 2 cameras and give us 2 different views of basically the way things are going or the way parts of the service.
And I also understand you're using NDI to connect ProPresenter and vmix together?
We're using NDI for two things. Number one is to connect vmix to ProPresenter, so there's the two computers are separately wireless or separately wired connected. The second reason we put NDI in is to be able to run a computer and a display in another part of the building. Should we need to, with COVID, we're going to have obviously a seriously restricted participation when we actually get back to having in-person participation. So we used NDI for overflow to be able to connect to a projector and a computer in a different part of the building.
Congratulations with what you've done and simplifying it down to something that that volunteers can actually operate and understand. I know that was kind of tricky sometimes to simplify it down. I did leave you with the unofficial guide to vmix.
Thank you.
And then the Helping Your Church live stream book that we can give to the volunteers as well.
Yeah, the Helping Your Church live stream was actually quite instrumental as we were, I'm an audio guy, and I've been an audio guy forever, and I'm not a video guy. And as we were starting to do the design process, we started to do some fair amount of research, and one of the things we came up with was the guide to live streaming that you wrote, which was actually quite useful in getting us up to speed on the information that we need to know to be able to start the design process or continue the design process. I'm
so glad it was helpful. So we'll take a quick look at the joystick and the cameras and the different views that you have. So why don't we show that off?
If we have presets set so that, for example, preset number 1 is the lectern, preset number 2 is the pulpit, and other presets that are established through the, for common views during the service.
If I'm seeing this correctly, you have 2 cameras and each of the presets go to the same place just from a different angle.
That's correct. That's the, to keep it very simple for the.
So let's take a look at this. This looks like something that other churches could definitely learn from. So can you explain this to me, what we're looking at here?
Yeah, when we were setting this up originally, the volunteers who do this are volunteers, and we have a number of them who cycle in and out. So we needed to make this as simple as possible. The way we did that was to basically say, okay, with presets, preset number 0.
And that is the shot that will come up when the camera is turned on as well, preset 0. So you have a nice slow fade. Is that something?
It's a nice slow fade to the wide shot from the side camera. And again, you can see the difference in the same, the difference that 2 cameras from 2 different perspectives gives us.
So why don't we show a zoomed in shot of the stained glass?
This is one of the shots that just was, it was one of these, as soon as I did it, it was wow. This is our stained glass window in the front, as you can see, and this is the side camera view of it. When we start to go into 30x zoom, we're shooting between 2 of the beams, by the way. That's what you're seeing there. But when you go into the zoom, you realize that there is actually stained glass in the eyelashes and in the lips. And you get to see detail that was just absolutely amazing that you couldn't see before, that you never even realized was there.
Incredible. In fact, let's look at it from that side camera, because I feel like that view is really nice. Now, this is a long fade. Obviously, we can change it, but it looks beautiful the way that you have it set up. So can we zoom in any further on this one? Oh yeah, so you can definitely see it pretty well there. Oh, there is stained glass in there. Look at that. Now we've gone through and optimized a few settings. We added the sharpness in vmix. We did a little bit of black stretch and color correction. But most of the settings in the camera are set to automatic because the lighting does change from day to day.
In this facility, the lighting is fairly well stable. There's not a lot of outside light that we're dealing with, so it is pretty stable. And one of the things that we're doing for COVID, we are having services, we are live streaming services on Sunday morning, and we are having singers. And we put the singers in the north transept so that they are socially distanced, very socially distanced from any of the other participants in the service. And again, having the side camera gives us the capability to do that. We can also use the side camera to get shots of the stained glass windows on the side or the artwork and so forth.
So the audio is coming through an Allen & Heath digital audio mixer, which is controlled generally by this iPad remotely. And then it all comes in to this rack here, which converts the analog audio over XLR into USB so that we can bring it into vmix for the live stream with a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. Now, all the cabling has been managed really nicely down here. This is an old church, so the cables are run underneath the floor here. You can see there's a drill through the floor. There's some conduit here to nicely move 2 stereo left and right audio cables, an SDI cable for each camera, and then a serial control cable, because as I mentioned, we're using the serial joystick controllers. Now, I also want to show you guys how the cameras are mounted, so let's take a look at that. So we have our 30x camera, the rear camera, all the way in the back, and then a 20x up here on the wall. And you'll notice that the cameras have been mounted upside down. So they're using a standard HC-CM1 wall mount. You'll notice it's a white camera with a white mount, so it makes the cameras very discreet and unobtrusive in this beautiful worship space. But they're mounted upside down so that we can capture shots that go very much, downward facing. If the cameras were facing upward, they have a limited tilt ability to go down. So by flipping them upside down, now we can shoot straight down to get the folks in the front row if there's a family who has a wedding or a baptism. It also is very nice to capture those angles of baptismal ceremonies. And then again, just a lot of different angle options, whether we're looking to the left and looking back, or we're looking in the front row, the baptismal area. It's just a good idea to invert the camera images. Then you can go into the camera settings and make it look normal by inverting the image. So the camera's mounted upside down, but obviously everything's inverted to look perfect. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video here. Thank you so much, John, for taking the time.
Thank you very much for coming, and thank you guys for being so much help when we, as part of our design process to get this running.
It's been my pleasure. Such a beautiful church and such a wonderful ministry that you guys are doing here.